Hello and welcome back to Greek 1. This is lesson 8. Today we're talking about prepositions and looking at the ειμι chart. Let's start off by reviewing what we've covered so far in the first 7 lessons. Well, we've talked about Greek using case endings to identify nominatives, genitives, datives, and accusatives. And we talked about what those are. The nominatives tend to be the sentences. Genitives is possession of. Dative is the indirect object, to blank. And then the accusative is the direct object. We've got the charts now. These are the full paradigms. We have the full endings for the 4 cases as well as the articles. You got to have those memorized. Is it going to be perfect? No way. It'll take months to really get these down where you need them to be. But you should have at least made a solid effort. You should have been studying for the last couple weeks. Some people can nail them down real fast, but most of us are going to need some time to really practice memorizing these, writing out the chart, and parsing. If you really haven't made a solid effort, I would recommend you stop this video and wait until you've made some effort to memorizing these endings. There's not a lot you can do until you've done that. It's kind of like having a guitar without strings. It's pretty pointless. Everything is going to be building on this, so you definitely want to have made some effort to getting these memorized. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about prepositions. And most of what we talk about today is going to be prepositions, but we will cover the ειμι chart. ειμι is how you say I am in Greek. So we're gonna look at how you say I am, you are, he, she, it is, they are. We're gonna look at that chart in Greek. We're gonna memorize those, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about grammar. Not because we need it right now, but because we're going to need it later on. It's called the predicate nominative, and we need to have some understanding of what the predicate nominative is in order to move on forward with the next lesson, which is going to be adjectives. Okay, having said that, let's jump into prepositions. And first, we'll look at English grammar. How does English deal with prepositions? All right. English uses words to describe the relationship between two things, all right? So the words are prepositions. Think about the sentence, the cat on the table. The word on is telling us where the cat is in relation to the table. The cat is on the table. So it's telling us the position of the cat in relationship to the table. That's why it's called a preposition. It is telling us where the cat is. All right, the cat under the table. That's not a sentence. I'm missing the is, so I probably shouldn't have put a period there. But in any case, the cat under the table, under is telling us where it is. The cat over the table. The cat beside the table. So on, under, over, beside. These are good prepositions. They show relationship and space. Okay, now on the other side, so we said the cat was on the table. The cat is the subject, but on the other side of the preposition, you have the object of the preposition. The word that follows a preposition is the object of the preposition. It's the thing we're talking about in relation. So the cat is on what? What is it on? The table. So that means the table is the object of the preposition, and the preposition is on. Let's move forward and just give a couple examples. So we said the cat was under what? Under the table. Under is the preposition. Table is the noun. It's the thing that's telling us what the cat is under. Same thing with the next phrase, over the table. Over is the preposition. It is the thing describing which direction it's in, where in space it is. And table is in relation to the table. So the cat is over what? The table. So the table is the object of the preposition. Same thing at the end. The cat is beside the table. Beside is the direction. It is showing us the place and space where the cat is. It is beside. That's the preposition. And then in relationship to what is the cat beside? Well, in relationship to the table. So the table becomes the object of the preposition. So right now we're just learning very simple things. There's a preposition that describes where something is in space. And then there's the object of the preposition where in relation to what that thing is in. So if we're on something, okay, on is a preposition, and in relation to what is it on? It's in relation to the table it's on. So the object of the preposition tells you what the marker is. Okay, so we have the preposition on the left side, and then following it is the object of the preposition. Together, the whole thing is a prepositional phrase. So the preposition and the object of the preposition together, they make a prepositional phrase. So on the table, the preposition and the object of the preposition make up the prepositional phrase. Under the table, that's a prepositional phrase. Over the table includes the prep and the OP. Prep is preposition, OP is object of preposition. And so that's the prepositional phrase. And that's English grammar. Okay, Greek is roughly the same thing. So let's talk about Greek prepositions. Well, Greek also uses prepositions to describe the relationship of something to something else. The word that follows a preposition is the object of the preposition. That is also true. In Greek, usually word order doesn't matter, but in prepositional phrases, yes, the object of the preposition will follow the preposition. So they'll be together. And then finally, you have it's the same thing. The phrase is called the prepositional phrase. So all that's the same in Greek. Let's take the phrase ipavtu. Ipavtu. You've got the preposition, which is ip, and then you have the object of the preposition. Together they make the prepositional phrase. All right. So far, so good. Nothing too confusing. Hopefully this is making sense. And now the curveball. In Greek, the meaning of the preposition will change depending on the case of the object of the preposition. What? All right. So sorry about this. This is one of those things where I taught this at prison in CDC, and I got a call like 7 months later. I don't know how long it was, but it was a long time later that I got a call from somebody who was keeping up with their Greek, and then they called me and told me, oh my gosh, I finally understand prepositions. So it's okay if this doesn't make perfect sense right up front. For some people, it's going to be hazy and you just keep going, and then eventually it makes sense. So hopefully sooner than later, but keep chugging along even if you're a little lost. All right. Let's start off with the example of meta of tu. Meta of tu. So we've got the preposition and the object of the preposition. Now, notice that it is in the genitive. So avtu, which is the Greek word for he, right, is in the genitive. It's got that omicron ipsilon ending. So the preposition is attached to an object of the preposition that is in the genitive. Now, we could have also, another alternative is to use that same preposition meta, but instead of attaching it to avtu, we attach it to avton. Now, look at the similarities here. It's all the same words, meta and avtu, meta and avton. The only difference is that avtu is the genitive and avton is the accusative. So it's the same words, but the object of the preposition, one is in the genitive and the other is in the accusative. All right. So when we're translating this, what ends up happening is when meta is connected to a genitive, meta means with. And so what you end up having in that first example, even though it's exact same words as the next one, is with him. But when meta in the second example is connected to that accusative of ton, you have after him. Meta of tu means with him. Meta of ton means after him. They're the exact same words, and yet they mean something different. The reason is because in Greek, if you attach a preposition to a word that is different in case, the case will affect the meaning of the preposition. So meta with a genitive means with, and meta with an accusative means after. So even though it's exact same wording, just the difference in cases there, meta means with him, meta of tu means with him, and meta of ton means after him. Now, to be with somebody and after them are two completely different things. And so you can see that this is actually pretty important in Greek. This is why I've said at the very beginning, Greek is more than just vocabulary. You have to understand the grammar, and that is where you're going to have a lot of insight. So we'll go through a couple more examples. Before, I just wanted to show you the basics here, that you have a preposition, and if you attach it to a word, the ending, the case ending matters, because that's what tells you what the meaning of the preposition is. So when you're looking at your vocabulary, your vocab and your word list will tell you the meaning of the prepositions according to the case. So if you open up your vocabulary, you'll see, for example, meta, if it's attached to something that, to a noun with a genitive ending, it means with. If meta is attached to a noun with an accusative ending, it means after. That's the example I just showed you. Another word, for example, is para. When you attach para to a word that has the genitive ending, it means from. Para is going to mean from if you attach a genitive ending to the word attached to it. If you have para with a noun with a dative ending, it's going to mean beside or in the presence of. And if you put para with a noun that has the accusative ending, para in that case is going to mean alongside of. So you can see that sometimes prepositions have three meanings. They can have two, and then sometimes they only have one. So pros, for example, will mean to, towards, or with in the accusative, and it only takes the accusative. So you're not going to see pros with another, with attached to a genitive, for example. Ipo means by with a genitive, or it can mean under if it's attached to an accusative. So let's take para, for example. So there you have para, from, beside, or in the presence of, and let's do a translation example. So the first thing you got to do is, when you're memorizing your vocab, you have to memorize the Greek, right? Para, and then you say, okay, genitive from, dative besides in the presence of, accusative alongside of. And you say that like a million times until you got all three memorized. All right, so then you're reading in your Bible and it says para anthropon, and in your head you're like, okay, I know that para is a preposition, and the word following it is obviously the object of the preposition. So the first thing you're going to do, or the thing you're going to do next, is you're going to parse the object of the preposition. You're going to look at anthropon, and you know that the ending is going to affect the meaning of para. So you look at the ending and you figure out, okay, that's a genitive masculine, and that should be plural. When I made this PowerPoint, apparently I got my case things confused, so my apologies. That's a genitive masculine plural. That's okay. Right now, the thing we have to focus on for this example is that it's in the genitive, because we need to know the case of the object of the preposition, the OP, in order to understand what the preposition means. So in our heads, we've already memorized what para means. We know that in the genitive, it means from, and that's the OP is in the genitive. It doesn't matter whether it's plural, singular. It means from. So we're going to now identify that. And so now we know it means from men. That's weird. In my translation, I put men, plural. I don't know why I put singular in on my notes, so my apologies. Okay, hopefully this is making a little sense. So we just said that, just to recap the prepositions little section here, Greek also uses prepositions to describe the relationships between things. The word that follows the preposition is called the object of the preposition. And then the whole phrase is called the prepositional phrase. Now, what's tricky is that in Greek, the meaning of the preposition changes depending on the case of the object of the preposition. So if you have a preposition like meta, it's attached to a word that's in the genitive, it means with. If meta is attached to a word that's in the accusative, it means after. So your vocab is going to show the meaning of the prepositions according to the cases of the object of the preposition. So all this means is you're going to have to memorize all the options. This is something that takes a while to really nail down. I don't know that after 15 years, I think every now and then I'm like, wait, what does that mean again? And I have to think twice about it. Prepositions are tricky. So I'm not suggesting that you're going to have this figured out in a week or two. I'm introducing you to the idea. You're going to do your best to study it. And Greek is a journey. You're going to just spend a lot of time reading your Bible, and eventually this will become clearer and clearer. But that's how prepositions work. And good. Now all you have to do is practice. All right, moving on. Now, very quickly, I'm just going to show you a chart and just tell you got to memorize it. This is really pretty simple. Ειμι is the Greek word I am. It's the to be chart. And here it is. Why am I throwing this at you right now? We're not going to study verbs for a few more chapters. We got, if you're doing one a week, one of these lessons a week, you still got a couple months to go. So this is a ways out. But ειμι is important because it occurs so often. This is obviously to be, I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you are, they are, is something we use so much that we got to take a little bit of time here and just start memorizing it. Also, it's irregular. It doesn't have the clearest, it's not the simplest pattern. So even though we're not studying verbs right now, we should take time to memorize this one because it happens so much. So the chart is this. ειμι. You'll look on the left-hand side of the chart. It says first singular, second singular, third singular. What does first, second, third mean? First person is when you're saying I am, I. I is first person. If you're talking to somebody else, you, that is called second person. And if you're talking about a third person, you're saying he, she, it is. So I is first, you is second person, and then he, she, it is third person. And then you have the plurals. First person plural includes you, so it's going to be we are. First person includes me, we are. Second person plural is you, plural, and then third person plural is they. So the ειμι chart is ειμι, εστίν, εσμεν, εστέ, εισίν. One more time. ειμι, εστίν, εσμεν, εστέ, εισίν. I'm going to recommend that you do what I do. When I learn these verbs, when I first learned Greek, I just did it by writing. And I found out later that it was way better to learn it by saying it out loud and doing some hand motions. So what I do now is I just say it out loud, ειμι, εστίν, εσμεν, εστέ, εισίν. And then what I do is I'm pointing. So if it's singular, like I am, I use one finger and I point at myself. I am. Then I say e, and I point forward like I'm talking to somebody. E, as in you are. And then I'll say estín, and I'll point with one finger off in the distance. And that's how I do a singulars. Eimi, point at myself. E, point forward. and estén point off in the distance. And then for the plurals, esmen, we are, I use my open hand to indicate, like I'm pointing at a group of people, and I say we are, and I kind of point at myself, and like if I'm with several people, and I'll act it out, and I'll say esmen, we are. Then I'll say este, you are, and use my open hand and kind of wave it across, saying like you all are. And then isin, they are, pointing off into the distance with an open hand. That's how I do it. I think that's really helpful, and we're going to be memorizing more paradigms, so you might as well practice. This is an easy one. You could probably just say this over and over again. Imi, I, estin, esmen, este, isin, and get it nailed down that way. Anyway, that's all I have for you as far as the imi verbs. You're just memorizing this, and that's about it. So I think we can move on now. All right. Finally, a little bit of grammar. We're not going to get into this too deeply. I just want to introduce this to you because it's a little technical. And so I want to start introducing these ideas, even though we don't necessarily need them right now. This is not absolutely critical. So if you're listening to this part of the predicate nominative lecture and you're thinking, gosh, this is above my head, this is not do or die. Learning the charts, that's do or die. This, okay, if you don't get it, we can still move on. All right. Let's jump into it. Predicate nominative. Okay, you remember when I was saying in one of my first lectures that the nominative is always the subject? I lied to you. And I might have told you I lied. And by the way, I'm lying to you often in this class because things are so complicated. I'm just telling you what you need to hear at that given point. And then later on, I'll tell you, okay, that wasn't quite true. It's just Greek is too complicated to give you the 100% of the truth as you're going along. So my apologies. But the nominative is not always the subject. For now, we can assume it's the subject, but I'm going to introduce a different idea that sometimes the nominative is not the subject. It's a predicate nominative. So that's what we're going to be talking about. All right. First, remember that a sentence is a subject and a verb. All right. So a basic sentence has a subject and a verb, and it could be something like Andres sent. Andres is a subject, sent is a verb. Now, a sentence can have, it does not have to, but you can add a direct object. So Andres sent, he sent what? What did he send? He sent a messenger. So a messenger is being directly sent. Now, it doesn't have to have a direct object. You can just have Andres sent, but you can also add the direct object if you want to, and that's what you have here. So subject, verb, direct object, and that is usually you have a direct object, or you have a direct object. You have to have a action word like sent. There has to be something to be directly affected by it. So what if you have a verb that is not an action word? So sometimes instead of having like send, hit, smash, throw, you have just a word that is to be, right? Andres is. The to be verbs are is, will be, was, being, things like that. It's just saying to be, right? You can have Andres is, Andres will be, Andres was, Andres is. And because there's no action, it's not, Andres isn't doing anything to anything or anyone else, you're not going to have a direct object here. What ends up happening is you have a subject, and then you have a to be word, and you can add, if you want, a predicate nominative. So in this case, instead of Andres sent a messenger, it's Andres is a messenger. And what we're saying here is that when you have a to be word, right? Like is, will be, was, is being, whatever. What you're essentially saying is equals, right? The subject equals the predicate nominative. And that's the difference between a predicate nominative, and a direct object. A predicate nominative is not directly affected by the verb. A direct object is, right? Andres sent a messenger is being directly affected. The predicate nominative is not because it is attached to an is. So predicate nominative is telling you what the subject is. Imagine an equal sign. So Andres is a messenger. Andres is not sending, he's not hiring, he's not firing, he's not educating a messenger, he's just being a messenger. So in this case, the predicate nominative is not being directly affected. That's a difference between a predicate nominative and an object. Now, going back, if you think about it, a direct object back then, it doesn't tell you what the subject is. We don't know what Andres is. Andres could be a different messenger. He could be something else. But in this sentence, the phrase a messenger, it doesn't tell you anything about what Andres is. It's just telling you what was being directly affected by his actions. So Andres has an action of sending. Messenger is the thing directly affected by it. But it doesn't tell you anything about Andres. That's the opposite with the brain fart, predicate nominative here. Andres is a messenger is telling you, okay, the subject is this. It's not telling us what is directly affected by his actions because the sentence does not include one. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. We have very similar sentences here. Andres is a messenger. Andres sent a messenger. But in the first one, you have a to be word is, and they're equating the two. So the noun on the right side, messenger, in this case is not a direct object. It's not being affected by any action. It is the subject, right? So Andres is a messenger. And in the second example, which is what we've covered in the past lessons, it's a direct object because a messenger is the thing directly affected by the verb or the action of the subject. All right. Why is this all important? Well, because in English, it's the word order that tells you what is what. Andres comes before the verb, and messenger comes after it. So that's how we tell what's the subject and what's the predicate nominative. Unfortunately, Greek does not use word order, and it does not use a different case. So sometimes you'll just see two nominatives, and you'll think like, wait, what's happening here? This might get a little confusing. Let me give an example. If you have the phrase Theos estin Kyrios, all right? Now, we just put up this chart earlier. It's the eimι. But if you look down to the third person singular, it's he, she, or it is. And so we know that estin is he, she, or it is. It's a to be word, all right? And then if we parse the other two words, right? If we parse theos, we find out that it is a nominative singular masculine. And I'm just going to shorten down to NSM just for space here. And then if I parse Kyrios, which is the lexical form, so that is also a nominative singular masculine. So I have two nominatives, and leads me to the question is, okay, which is the subject, which is the predicate nominative? I don't know. How do we find out? Well, in Greek, you can really only learn from context. So that's a fancy way of saying look around at what has been said before and after and see if you can guess. There are some syntactical clues. When you get into syntax, it's a long ways from now. When you learn that, there'll be some clues. But for now, really the context will tell you. That's all you have to know about predicate nominatives is just if you have a to be word, okay, the noun on the right side, the other noun is a predicate nominative, but in Greek, sometimes you're going to have to look at context. You have to read the whole sentence, maybe the whole paragraph to know what's what. That's all you got to know. If you need to rewatch this lesson a couple times and it's still a little hazy, that is okay. This is not the hill to die on. Just keep moving forward. This is not critical. There are other things that are much more important. Okay, so let's just review what we talked about in this lecture. The first things we did is we talked about prepositions. Then we looked at the eimι chart, and then finally the predicate nominative. What did we say about prepositions? Remember, Greek uses prepositions just like English to describe the relationship of something to something else. The word that follows a preposition is called the object of the preposition. You'll hear me say OP for short, just because object of the preposition is a very long phrase. When you have the preposition and the object of the preposition together, it is called a prepositional phrase. And then finally, the big monkey wrench in this whole thing is that the meaning of the preposition in Greek changes depending on the case of the preposition. Of the object of the preposition. So if you have the word ipo and it is attached to something that is in the genitive case, then ipo means by. You take that same word, ipo, and attach it to the same other noun, but that noun is going to be in the accusative this time, then ipo this time means under. And so that takes a little bit of getting used to, and obviously you got to memorize your vocabulary. Then we talked about the eimι chart. Eimι is the verb to be. It occurs many, many times. It is regular, but it happens so frequently that we're going to study it now, and you want to memorize this chart. It is eimι, estin, esmen, este, isin. And to me, I hear a little bit of Spanish in there every now and then, but maybe that's just me. All right, the last thing we talked about was the predicate nominative. We said the predicate nominative is not affected by the verb, so there isn't an action like throw or hit when it's a predicate nominative. Instead, a predicate nominative tells you what the subject is. So God is Lord, the Lord, right? A direct object doesn't tell you what the subject is. It tells you what is affected by the verb. So Andres threw the chair. We don't know anything about what Andres is. What we do know is what he threw. That's a direct object. In English, the word order tells you what is a subject and what is a predicate nominative. And that's because in English, the subject comes first and the predicate nominative comes after the verb. But Greek does not use word order nor a different case. So at first, it might be a little confusing. Only context will tell you. Well, this was an interesting lesson. I hope I didn't just melt your brain. Remember, what are the hills to die on? Don't stress about the predicate nominative. You do want to memorize that eimι chart, and you do need to understand Greek prepositions, even though, like I said, there's no way you're going to get this nailed down in 1 week. This is something I'm introducing you to, and as you go through your journey, you'll figure this out, and it'll get clearer and clearer. Well, guys, keep studying, keep doing your vocab, keep doing your workbooks if you have them, and do some reading in your New Testament. That's all I can say. Greek is hard, and I want to encourage you to keep up the good work. All right, until next time.